Welcome back. So, before we can get started talking about some serious computer science topics, we need to have a programming language agreed upon. And computer science is not entirely about programming languages, much like astronomy is not entirely about telescopes. So, you don't need to technically have a programming language per se, but it helps. So, what language are we going to use? We are going to use Java. And before you get into a religious, philosophical debate about what language versus another, I just thought that I should choose the language for you guys. And if you don't agree with that language, you can use your own and try to follow along, or you can follow along with the code that I'm using and we'll be making available online. So let's get started. Where do you get Java? If you are using Linux, then you can just get Java from your favorite package manager, whether that's Aptitude or Yum or I'm not sure what the other ones are. Or you can get it from Oracle. Uh, and Java is available for free on every operating system in existence. So I'm not going to give you a link because they always change the link address. So you just need to be able to use a search engine. I know that's a little difficult for some people, but if you just search for Java SDK, you should get a link, or sometimes it's called a JDK, and this will have every version of Java that's available for every version of 32 and 64-bit versions of operating systems. And the only thing you need to do is get the license agreement. If you have an older Mac, you may have already Java 6 installed. I'm not sure how it works to upgrade to a new version of Java on a Mac. On Windows and Linux, you can just grab the. You can use this installer that comes with your exe on Windows, and in Linux, just um, use your package manager. So once that's installed, remember you need the JDK or the Java SDK, not just the runtime. Then you can check that you have the compiler installed and add it correctly to your path. You're gonna need to do this on Windows. You just right click the control panel, go to properties, and then advanced settings and environment variables, and add the place where Java was installed in your system to the end of your path. Make sure you use a semicolon and do not destroy what path settings are already there. In Linux, you can just edit bash.c, whatever terminal startup you use. I'm not sure how to do that in Mac, so you're on your own. Mac always does things differently. I don't know why. Oh, and Windows, make sure you use a semicolon, and on Linux, make sure you use a colon when you want to separate path variables. So to check to make sure that Java was installed correctly, want to type Java C, and I like doing this version. Hyphen version will tell you what version of Java C you have installed, just to make sure that you have what you downloaded is what it came is what you installed. And it says on my system I have Java 1.7. For if you want to use Java 6, you should be more than fine with that. If you want to use Java 8, be my guest. There's really no difference. They just add some new features every time, and that's one thing I like about Java versus another language, say Python, where there was a big disconnect between Python 2 and Python 3, and Python 2 code won't work in Python 3 and vice versa. So that's one of the reasons I chose Java. Another one is because we'll get into objects later, and Python's terrible with objects. So once you have Java installed, then we need to have an editor. Now, you could use a simple editor that comes with your system like Notepad or TextMate or Xcode on Mac, or Get It, or whatever command line editor you want to use, VI, Emacs, your choice. For a lot of you, I know this will be your first programming language, so I'm going to suggest an integrated development environment, but I'm not going to suggest Eclipse or Visual Studio because those are heavyweight behemoths that have a whole bunch of features that you're never going to use. One editor that I like that is very light in terms of memory and CPU usage is called Genie. It's open source, it's cross-platform, and you only just need to have a few things installed in it. The Windows installer, I think, even does it for you. Genie is available for download from Genie.org. Their little logo is a little lamp, and I really like this editor because it's easy to use. And imagine Eclipse or Visual Studio is like this pumped up performance sports car that will get you from A to Z in 2.5 seconds. You don't need that for a beginner. You really don't. Genie is the sedan that will get you from A to B eventually, but it gets you from A to B. And in fact, I like using it because it's even quicker than Eclipse and Visual Studio because it doesn't load as much junk. If you want to edit something quickly, Genie's the way to go. You can add that to your path as well, which means you can launch from the command line. Don't mind all the Firefox just gives a bunch of errors when it runs. To launch Genie, you can click the shortcut after you have it installed, or launch it from the command line. I like using the command line a lot, so I may have a tutorial on how to get around the Unix tools. And the JavaC and the Genie commands will work in Windows as long as you add them to your path. And then you can run them from the command terminal or PowerShell. So Genie looks like this. It's a really simple interface. I can edit any sort of text file. But the nice thing is it will color code things for you when we get to reserved words and all that jazz in programming languages. So once you have these two things installed, then you should be ready to get going on Hello World, which I'll cover in the next video. So to prove that you're a human that watches this video, let's use the word object in the comments, okay? And please don't go into a discussion about which Mac operating system or programming language is the best and which editor is the best. And I don't want to hear about it, okay? So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.